welcome to PlayStation Access, coming to you from Gamescom. Now, I'm very, very excited, and I know I always say that, but I am extremely excited because sitting next to me is none other than, and he's got an amazing name, Richard Borzymowski.
Very good.
Yes, nailed it. Who is a producer on Cyberpunk.
And also very excited. Very excited.
We're both very excited. So you're going to tell me everything I need to know about Cyberpunk, right? You're going to spill all the secrets?
Everything. I will tell you everything.
Okay, fantastic. Well, what I'm going to start off with is Gunplay. Because this is something very different for you guys, right? So we're not used to seeing shooters from CD Projekt Red. So how did you begin putting together the Gunplay and deciding how you wanted it to feel, how you wanted it to play out?
So, well, as you mentioned, we haven't done like on FPS at all in the past, but it's not like that our designers are not familiar with the subject, right? We're playing games as well. People that the gameplay designers are doing their games themselves either at home or they were just doing FPSs before they joined Cyberpunk. Also, we acquired talent from the industry in order to grow our team accordingly to do this exact project we envisioned. And this is how we ended up with pretty good gunplay as far as I can see in the demo.
Yeah, I have to say from what I've seen it looks epic. So I guess I've noticed that in interviews previously, you guys have said that you don't want this to just be an FPS though. And I think, again, that's evident in the demo. You know, we've seen lots of different ways of very creatively taking down enemies. So if you're not a first-person shooter person, if that's not something you enjoy, what can you look forward to?
That's exactly what you're saying. We are not actually an FPS. We are a hardcore RPG, right? Like, this is first and foremost a story-driven RPG with shooting elements, let's put it that way. Because, well, we are playing in the Cyberpunk universe, 2077. There are guns around, so why shouldn't you use a gun? You are using a gun. But your gunplay, how you are using the weapon, which weapons you are able to use, is all influenced by the attributes, the skill sets that you are acquired through the game. So think nothing less when it comes to RPG elements in The Witcher. And by tying those two things together, we hope that Cyberpunk will be a very enjoyable RPG shooter element experience.
So let's break down those attributes, because as you said, you can kind of very heavily customize your character. You've got not only the life paths, but you've also got the attributes, and you know you've got the
skills,
skill
perks,
tree. Yeah, exactly. So what can you change? What are we customizing? When I'm changing all these various elements, just how different can I be as a character?
Well, that's a very broad question, but let's simplify it down to this. So first and foremost, you are creating your own character, right? You are shaping how he looks, how he sounds, like you're choosing his backstory, and later on, while playing the game, you are actually developing your skills by playing the game as you want it to be. Let's say, if you want to be a guy who walks, with a shotgun into every single action scene. If you're using this shotgun, then your shotgun skill gets leveled up accordingly. The thing here is that to each skill perk, there is an attribute mapped. Let's say it's an example that for the shotgun skill, strength is like the attribute of choice, the mapped attribute. So you can level up your shotgun, but not higher than the amount the attribute currently has. So if you want to go up higher in your shotgun skill, then it would be a good idea to level up your strength attribute, right? And this will allow the player to shape the character while playing the game.
And so if I change my mind halfway through, how restricted am I going to be by the choices I've made previously?
There is always like a way to, you can drop the shotguns and go full sniper rifles and then start leveling up this one. So we don't want to, funnel a player down into a path that he might later regret. There will be always a path in order to, well, it's like in life, right? If you are a doctor half of your life, but at one point you decide you want to become a bestseller author, and let's just start writing because this is the way you are leveling up your skills, right? You are still a doctor, but in another 20 years' time, you might be also a bestseller author.
I like that. That's like the perfect way to explain it. All right, so let's talk about the city, because again, this is something that I think I'm really excited about how it feels both familiar and yet like a new space, because we all know what cyberpunk as a genre looks like. We all know what we want to see, but at the same time, you don't want it to feel too familiar. You don't want it to feel boring. So how have you given it that edge that makes it feel very, definitive to this game?
Well, I personally see the cyberpunk genre as horror, right? You have different kinds of horror. You have sci-fi horror. You have other horrors. I'm not a particular professional in horror, but with Cyberpunk 2077, we are making our own take of Cyberpunk, built upon Cyberpunk 2020 by Mike Pondsmith, done in the 1980s. But we are giving it our own flair. We want to put the punk back into Cyberpunk through music, through the characters, how the world is built up. So there will be obviously common elements like oppressive corporations, obviously like poverty and those in the middle struggling what to do with their life. But I sincerely believe that Cyberpunk 2077 will be unique in this niche.
And so something else that's in the city are the gangs, are the different factions. So tell us a little bit about those and how they'll shape our experience through the city.
The gangs are a very prominent element in the city. I don't remember how many there are, but like 4 or 5, something like that. Maybe even per district would make sense, actually. They are part of the story. They are appearing there. Also in other activities in the open world, you will be in contact with them. You will have merchants tied to them. So one gang might sell you something that another gang is not selling. You might sell one particular item at a better price to one particular gang that needs this item for a better price than at a gang that doesn't need this item, etc., 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 etc. So they are prominent in the world and they are prominent in the game. They are an integral element.
And is that the same for the corporations? Because I think obviously in the demo we saw last year, we did see what was a very frightening corporation come in towards the end of that.
I would put it this way: the corporations are like this ominous creature looming above everything, right? It's easier to get into trouble like on the street with a gang than actually get into like a higher up corporation and start just talking to people. If you start asking around in shady parts of the town around some people like in the real world, then you probably find some gang associates. But in order to get up to the CEO in Coca-Cola, you just don't walk up in there, right? So it's kind of a bit of a difference. But the corporations are very prominent as well. They are like shaping how the whole night city, how the whole world in Cyberpunk looks like. And we are struggling against that. So they are as prominent, but in a bit different way.
So you mentioned quests with the gangs. So just quests in general, that's something that you guys are really known for. You're known for having, not quite such a separation between side quests and campaign. They often feel much kind of more woven into the story. Yeah. So is that something we're going to see here? And what kind of quests are we going to be looking at?
Absolutely. The thing we are trying to do with the side quests is that we always, when it fits, we like to introduce those first breadcrumbs to the side quest in the main path. Like we're introducing a character that might not get fleshed out in the main game, in the main path, but there will be a side quest connected to it. You might get interested in what is he up to, like what is his problem, can we help him, do we want to help him, etc., etc., etc. And then on the other hand, you have all those activities happening in the city, which are, for instance, contracts that we get from our fixer. We are a mercenary, we need money. So what are we doing? We are calling up our fixer, hey, hook me up with a quest that gives me a street story that gives me a bunch of, eddies. And in those, we also get in touch with, as mentioned, gangs, also with corporations. Sometimes there will be contracts given out by corporations. They are not saying that directly because corporations don't do that. They are good guys, right? But we are the guys who are doing the things that they find too messy to deal with directly.
So we did see, the mission that we saw in the demo, you are kind of doing somebody's dirty work for them, which I really liked.
In the demo? Which one was that?
So we were working with, I think, the
Voodoo
Boys. And
yeah.
then,
Oh, yes, of course. I said it like they weren't present in the main game. Of course they are present in the main game.
Absolutely.
Well.
So,
Of course.
So the thing I loved about this was we saw it from two different perspectives. So in the demo we
we
see
switched, right?
Yeah, so it's the high intelligence, the Netrunner style character, and then my favourite, which is like the smash everything, rip a
I
turret
figured
off.
that much.
Yeah. So do you have a favourite weapon? Because we saw such a variety.
If I have a favorite weapon, I have a favorite type of weapon in the game. It's like the smart guns, which are like targeting people. It's probably not a weapon I would use in the game if I would use it if I would play it myself, because those guns are like you're pinpointing a guy on the map, like on the screen, and all your shots that you're firing are hitting him. But you don't have that much of control if you are hitting like leg, body, or head. If you're using, a manual weapon, a normal weapon, then you actually can rely on your skill and make those headshots count, right? To get headshot. But it looks so good if those bullets are just flying around and doing a... It's really nice, yeah. This was actually part of the demo last year.
Well, as you said, it looks so cool. And I think that's one of the things that's so striking is it is just this beautiful world. So how difficult is that to achieve technically? Because obviously you can decide this is how we want it to look, but then you've still got to give it to a team to make it actually happen.
I sincerely don't know how our programmers made it happen. I mean, there were those ideas that this will look this way, this will look this way. And I was like, all right, those are good ideas, but let's see if this is going to work out. And then it worked out, and I'm like, and this is running on a normal machine, and it's working on a normal machine. Like, oh, all right, okay, cool. I mean, awesome work. So no, but jokes aside, like, we had to improve our engine after The Witcher. It's not even about that the engine was worse, it was different. It was suited for a different kind of game. It was TPP. We didn't have that high verticality buildings. There wasn't that much detail. There wasn't that much light, actually. And this is one of the things that we were focusing on. Like with our global illumination system, we want to make sure that every light that bounces off a wall actually colorizes like when it bounces back off again. I mean, it's really complex. When I first heard about this, I wasn't even aware that if a light source, I mean, I haven't thought about it like saying, like if it bounces on a wall, then actually this wall is emitting light as well. So it's actually influencing how this sofa is looking like. And it really makes a difference in the game, especially if we have, a night city at night, with all those neons around. It's not just about building a city, it's about making a city that makes you go, well, like you go. Yeah,
I think that's a fair thing to say. And so how do you make a city feel so lived in? I think that's another thing, is it does feel like a city with a history. It really feels like you're wandering through a story. You can see what happened in each district. So what do you think about to make it look that way?
Two factors. Mike Pondsmith's work in Cyberpunk 2020, it eased it up, certainly. This is why we wanted to cooperate with him on that, because we really liked the setting. It was interesting for us to implement a major story in it. And the second key part is a very dedicated open world team who learned their lessons on The Witcher, and who makes sure that each space in the city is there for a reason, that it's feeling lived in. And on top of that, we obviously have the environment team that is shaping a city realistically.
So for fans of The Witcher,
yes,
what are they going to recognize here? What are they going to feel as that CD Projekt Red feel about the game?
All right, that's a good question. I would answer that in The Witcher 1 and 2, we wanted and achieved, as far as we heard the community, a very immersing story. What we did in The Witcher 3 was to add an open world on top of that story, to make the player be able to walk around, do quests in a different order, and so on. And in Cyberpunk, we're adding a third layer with the open-ended gameplay. You can customize your own character, you can shape how it's being played. You are not Geralt anymore with two swords. You can You can be the guy with 2 swords, but you can also be the guy with a sniper rifle, the shotgun, or your bare fists. And I think what the Witcher fans should expect from Cyberpunk, that we are not letting go of this immersive story and the open world elements.
And so when it comes to story, how difficult was it to choose what you took from Mike Pondsmith's work? Because obviously there's just so much of it.
Well, we didn't take the story itself, right?
Yes.
This was a plot that we developed in strong cooperation with Mike. When it comes to the world, it was more about, well, we took everything that was happening in 2020, but the challenge was that we were actually adding 57 years to that, right? So the challenge was to come up with a time skip that allowed us to shape our story in a way that it's like set 57 years in the future, while still addressing things that were happening in the core game of Cyberpunk 2020. And that was probably the biggest challenge. Later on, we developed our plot and shaped our quests, and one of it you saw.
So how does it feel to see it kind of in this state? Because obviously this is a game that we've been waiting for forever, it feels like. You know, it's something that we've had
It's
teased
a while.
and teased
It's a
and
while.
teased.
It's a little.
Yeah, a while. But it feels amazing to finally see this kind of really, obviously it's not the entire game, but see a really polished, finished version that is a game we're watching somebody play. So how does it feel for you to kind of see it in that state?
Actually, I think it feels pretty similar to what you are feeling, because, well, when you're developing a game, you are not doing quest by quest to alpha to beta quality to polish quality, right? You are like developing it evenly, like you're drafting everything out and doing alpha, pre-beta, beta polish. So when we're doing these materials for the E3, where we are picking out some slices of the game in order to polish out to see like our end product, we want our end product to look like this, it gives us a sense of like, it's comforting us that we are actually seeing it. All right, this is actually working. This is looking insanely good. It's playing insanely well. And now we just have to do this. There are too many quests in this game.
All right, final question.
Yeah.
If you were going to shape your character in this game, where are you putting points? What attributes are you going? Which life path?
Life path. All right, I really like that. I know. I would pick the corporal life path because I'm somewhat, before I came into the industry, I was like doing consulting strategy and stuff like that. I was actually wearing a tie, and it somewhat resembles my life path as well. Attribute points, I don't know exactly. I would have to actually focus on. I'm a min-maxer, right? I have to just. All right, those weapons require those things. I need this. But certainly I would go with a lot of cool.
I mean, you don't even need to put points in that. Look how cool you are already.
Yeah, but the game doesn't know that. We're not there yet. No, just kidding.
Well, thank you so much. This was absolutely brilliant. We loved watching the demo, and I'm glad to hear that. It's ridiculous how excited I am for this, and I'm glad to hear that you are as excited as I am.
I'm certainly. Thank you so much.
No, not at all. Thank you. And thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed that. We are just, we can't wait for this. The demo was absolutely fantastic. I hope you enjoyed this interview. And if you liked it, make sure to like it and subscribe and hit that notification bell to make sure you stay up to date with everything from the world of PlayStation Access.
For the players.